I think we're going to come back online, if I'm not mistaken, for a new day of streaming, quite late, as always. Had some problems before the stream started, which always is the case. No matter how early you get up, you're going to always have problems equivalent to how early you got up, so it's always the same late starting time. Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Vencabot. Intro to Python, programming action. My name is David. I'm joined by my friend Jetstream. What's up, Justin?
Yeah, what's going on?
Justin's a friend of mine from the Third Strike community. From what I understand, he's also a comp sci student from back in the day, but it's been enough years that he's pretty much forgotten everything, right, Justin?
Yeah, I don't know anything at all.
Beginner status, but not you know some stuff, because Justin actually followed along with our last episode on YouTube and is totally caught up with us so far on our project that me and Kaiju started last week, which is a very simple RPG that runs using only the most basic of programming concepts that are not only usable in Python but also in any language you learn. It'll be the same in JavaScript or C++. The syntax will be a bit different. Where you break the lines and put the colons might be a little bit different, but the ideas are exactly the same. So Justin's all caught up with us here. First of all, I've forgotten where we are. So we have this notepad here we're going to be using on collabedit.com for us to collaborate as we program. And I see we don't have a whole lot of lines of code here. I see 35 lines of code, so very, very simple. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and comment this code so we can get a reminder of where we're at. So I wrote some notes for Justin and Kaiju last week where I described, I don't think I mentioned this in the last stream, but on Python, any code you write after a hashtag or a pound sign or a number sign, whatever you want to call it, is ignored by Python. So they call that a comment. So you can actually just put whatever you want in there. So I'm going to kind of comment this code a little bit and write down what all is going on. So here in this first block of code, we have, defining player and monster attributes. So that's where we do all this, right there. And then down here, we have a while loop, and we see while monster health points is greater than 0 and player health points is greater than 0. So we have a conditional block saying keep running this code block here for as long as both the player and the monster are alive. So if they're both alive, they have health points greater than 0, keep on running this code here. So we're going to call this the main combat loop. So the main combat loop runs as long as both characters are alive. Okay. And then we have this, the prompt here. Let's actually indent this. Say a prompt player for command. So we ask the player right here if they want to use attack or magic. And then we have a little if block. So we're going to say, run different code based on what the player wants to do. So here we have an if block. So if the command is equal to attack, we run this code. If they want to use magic, we use this code. If it's not attack or magic, we tell them it's an unrecognized command. Then finally we have here at the very bottom, after we get out of this if block, we're going to say, notify the player of what just happened. In this block, we actually just print off some data. So we print off how much health the monster has left, we print off how much health the player has left, and then the monster attack. Actually, let's make this a separate block here, right? So we're going to say, I'm sorry, we have right here. So we are on this line right here. We have player health points equals the player health points minus the monster's attack power. So what this is doing here is it's minusing the player's health based on the enemy's attack power. In other words, the monster bit you on the ass. So we're going to go down here and say, the monster's turn, right here. Okay. And then we, likewise down here, we notify the player again of what just happened. Okay, now here we have the final block after the while loop. So you can see how this code's indented. So we have this code here, it's all indented after the while. That means all this is running in this loop. But down here, finally, the code is no longer indented anymore. We're back on the far left side of the screen. So this is where the while loop ends. That means that either the player or the monster has run out of health. And we're going to say down here, the while loop is over, so somebody died. Who was it? Right, and here we say if the monster's health points are greater than 0, that means that you lose. That means the monster's still alive. Actually, let's rewrite this comment then, right? We have this in reverse. We don't find out who died. We would say, so somebody died. Who's still alive is what we're asking, right? We're not asking who's dead. We're asking who's still alive. If the monster's health is greater than 0, we know that the monster's still alive, so the player died. We print you lose. If the player's health is greater than 0, when the player is still alive, that means the monster is dead, and we print you win. Cool beans. Why am I missing the chat here? Lord Johnny says, my dad's bookshelf is useless. HTML5, PHP, Perl 6, SQL, Ruby, nothing useful. Dude, that's all fucking useful, man. I mean, HTML5 is really, really useful. SQL is very useful. In fact, I think Justin told me before he's got some familiarity with SQL. Is that correct?
No, I have none at all. Like, as of right now, as we stand today, I know nothing. I'm a complete newbie.
That's funny.
And
yeah, SQL is databasing language. It's very, very useful. We're going to be using that, sometime in the future, but that's still far from here, though. Because then you can learn from here. That's true. We're all trying to get a little bit stronger here. So I'm going to actually copy paste this code that I just wrote. I'm going to actually use Control A to select all, and then Control V to. Oops, I just pasted. Okay, well, I'm going to have to copy paste this code from over here then with no comments. That's a drag. But anyway, we get the idea. Let's select all of this. Control C is how you cut, not Control V. All right, so let's. I don't think there's any undo here, so let's Control V. There we go. Got our code back with no comments. That's fine. We can live with that. I just want to go through what each block does here. Okay, so. The code should still run. Let's actually test the game right now. So that's pi in the command prompt, and then we're running second day dot pi. Okay, so we got attacker magic prompt. I want to use a magic right off the bat. Okay, hit magic once with a fireball, and he has 12. He starts with 20 health, right? So the magic does more damage than the regular attack does. Our character's a wizard. We can see that right here in the code, actually. We have the player's attack power is 3, but the magic power is 8. So he does more than twice as much damage with a fireball. So I'm going to use the fireball again. Why not? So I'm going to say magic. Okay, so now he's down to 4 health, and I'm down to 10 health. He's doing about like 5 damage per hit, seems like. I'm going to finish the job with normal attack. I think it was like, oh, that's 3 damage. He's got 1 health left. Oh shit, that was a big mistake. So this is the glitch that I was talking to Justin about before the stream. So I noticed the last time when our stream ended that if you look at our code down here, we have this while block that runs as long as the monster has health points and the player has health points, right? But what's interesting is that, as you see here, Justin, the player gets his turn, right? And then we print off how much health the monster has left. But then we also print off how much health the player has left after the monster attacks. So there is no test here. Right here on lines, if you look at the collab edit right now, on line 26, we see where the monster actually does the damage, right? His monster attack power subtracts from the player's health. There's no test here. I'm going to put this. I'm going to put a little comment here. In fact, there is no test here to find out whether the monster is alive or not. So basically, the player gets his turn, and then the monster always gets his turn. We don't care how much health the monster has. Like, he could have negative 10 health. The monster still gets a turn. So you could think of that as. Like a final blow, like he's on his deathbed and he gets one final hit on you. But instead, why don't we fix this code, Justin? So if you were me, how would we test on this line, right now on line 28, how are we going to test here to make sure that the monster is still alive so we know whether to give it a turn or not?
You said what will we do? Like, what will we change on line 28?
Yeah, here, I'll do some comments here. So basically, we need to find out if the monster is alive or dead before it gets a turn, before it attacks. So we need we need to test some value to see if the monster is alive. So if we look at line 35, we have a kind of a similar line of code of what we need, right? It's if the monster's health points are greater than 0, then we print we lose. So we know that. We can test the monster's health points to see if it's alive, right? What's up, Lord Johnny? What are you screwing around with, dude? What should I send to you? Okay. Oh, the code I have now. Yeah, it's actually, you can use this URL on the top of the screen, Johnny, if you want to follow along with us. It's at collabedit.com/AN9B9. Stay with me, Justin? Oh, his Discord just crashed. I see. Take your time, dude. Because basically, guys, this monster is always getting a turn to attack, whether or not he's still alive. So we hit the monster right here. He could be dead, but if he's still alive, it won't let you on, huh? That's weird. I wonder why it wouldn't let Justin on either the first time. I have a theory why that would be. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to paste this code again. Yeah. Oh, right, I can't paste the code, right. Right, that was the problem. I'm not logged in. Fuck, that's annoying. Can't log into Discord either on this PC. What is Grim Dawn, Zanzu? What kind of genre is it? Like an RTS? Or like a hack and slash? It's an ARPG, Diablo 2-esque. Okay, so like I've never heard that term before, like an action RPG. So I think of, when I define the Diablo 2 genre, I think of it being like a hack and slash. But it's kind of confusing because some people refer to like Devil May Cry as a hack and slash, which is wrong. Which is wrong. I think hack and slash implies, pseudo top-down-ish view, running around and beating up monsters, getting loot and EXP and stuff. I feel like Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden and Bayonetta are much more nuanced than a typical hack and slash, where you mostly just, no, that's not fair to say, right? It's not really fair to say. But the way they're controlled is different. Said Diablo and Gauntlet and Baldur's Gate. These are all hack and slash games, but they're also action RPGs, of course. I mean, in a finer genre, if you go on narrow it down even more, I think of them as being hack and slash games.
All right, hello, can you hear me?
Hey, welcome back, Justin.
Okay, I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know if my Wi-Fi is choppy today or what. But all right.
Well, welcome back, dude.
Okay. So we left off. We were testing. We have to test the value to see if the monster, whether if we attack him, we have to know when he's dead or not, right?
Right. So I'm gonna go to line 30. I'm gonna say, basically, the monster should only get a turn if it's alive. That's what we're trying to do here. So on line 31, and also on 32, and even 33. So those 3 lines, we have like the monster's turn, basically, right? First, we do the behind-the-scenes code where it attacks us. Then we tell the player it attacked us, and we tell the player that they got hit and here's their remaining health on those 3 lines. Basically, we want those things to only happen if the monster is still alive at this point. So we're going to need
So would that mean that we would need like another if statement?
Exactly.
Like before?
Yeah, we need to make this code conditional because we only want it to happen in certain situations.
Okay.
So let's go down to line, make a line there. And let's, I don't know, we're going to test the monster's health, right? So if the monster's health points are greater than 0, run this code. Now, as you know, this is not going to run at all. It's not going to work. It's going to be a bug. Because we have a syntax error here. We have to indent after an if statement. So if we indent this code on 32 and 33...
Yeah, everything has to go under the if statement.
Exactly.
Right.
So now this code will only run if the monster is still alive. Which is what we want.
Right.
But that makes me think, though, we could actually get rid of this code block down here at the bottom at line 37 and down to 41, because now we know the monster is dead, right? Because if the monster's alive, we do this. But what else we can do is we can say, let's make an else statement. So basically, if you follow an if with an else, that means that the else code, I need to indent this again, there we go, will only run if the if code does not run.
So there's no point in having 2 if monster loses lines. Right.
So we're just going to go down here. If the monster's still alive, if the monster is dead, then we print, you
then
win.
We print the you lose. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and because right here we have if the monster's still alive, gets a turn. Else, we know he's dead, so print you win. And then we're going to break out of this block. So here's what we're going to do, I think. Right now we have a while loop up here that runs as long as the monster and the player are both still alive. I'm going to introduce a new concept here. I knew I didn't want to introduce a new concept, but that's what we're going to do instead. So we're going to actually make this while loop unconditional. So right now it's conditional on the fact that the player and the monster are still alive, right here on line 8. We're going to make this unconditional by backing space and through all this. We're going to say while true. So the while loop will only run if its condition is true. In this case, we're not even fucking testing jack shit. We're just saying it's true. While true. It's going to be true forever. So let's run this code forever. And we're going to introduce a new idea here. On line 22, we use a continue statement. And I pointed out last time, what continue does in a while loop is it will skip all the remaining code in the loop and go right back to the top. So in this case, on line 20, we say, if we don't know the command, then continue. What that does is it means skip all the shit where the monster attacks and we do damage and go right back to asking the player what they want to do at the very top at line 9. There's another kind of statement we can use, though. So we have continue in a while. We also have break. So break means no matter where we are in the loop, immediately end it. Just end the loop. So on line 38 here, once we've won the game, I put in break. That means that even though our while loop is non-conditional, it runs forever. It says while true right there on line 8. We can still break out of it with a break statement. So we're saying run this loop forever until the monster is dead. Right? So we can get rid of this code here at line 43 and 44. Because now we know the monster is dead. We know that we've won. But now let's also go back into our loop. And I want you to help me out with this one. I want to also break out with a you lose statement if the player is dead. So while inside this while loop, we're going to test to see if the player is dead. And then if they are, we're going to print off you lose and we're going to break out of it. So what line would that be on, do you think? I think Justin might be having some more Discord problems. What's up, userman? Did you can also use a negative equals instead of... Yeah, exactly, userman, thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to do that too early, though.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hey, welcome back, Justin.
Oh, I think, yeah, I'm keep breaking out again. I'm sorry about that.
That's strange. But okay, I was just saying that I want to move this other test on line 40. So basically, we moved our test to see if the monster is dead up here to line 36, right? Where we say, now we know the monster is dead because we know he's not still alive. Mm-hmm. Did you hear what I said about the break statement, about how it breaks out of unconditional loops?
Yeah, so pretty much from before you broke up, the break statement, it automatically just cuts everything off after, line 37.
Right, exactly.
If you were to win, it just ends the game, it ends the program.
Well, in this case, it doesn't end the program, it ends the loop. So as you can see, that the break is within this while loop. So what a break statement will do is that it'll end the loop and then continue on to line 40. So in this case, our loop goes forever. On line 8, it says while true. It'll always keep running in a loop. But we can actually get out of that anyway with a break statement and then go right back down to where the loop would end, which would be line 40. So, but I want to do now...
How would that work, though? Because I could have sworn if or wait, let me see. Let me just read this. I think I just confused myself.
Okay, what are you thinking, dude?
Because I could have sworn we just did something that made one of these print statements like irrelevant if we just did something.
Oh, I removed
the monster health point.
Yeah, I removed that one already. I'm sorry. It's while you were gone on Discord.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had here. I used to have this line down here. We used to say, I'm going to put it back in for you. So on line 40, I'm going to say if player health points is greater than 0, so player is still alive. Then we used to print, you win. But now that line of code is totally irrelevant because, on line 31, we test if the monster is still alive. If they are, they get a turn. But then on line 36, if they're not alive, then we know that we won, right? So we're just going to print we won, and we're going to end this loop. So what would happen now, let's actually just run this code. Let's actually go and copy paste all this code. So I'm going to use Control A and then Control C. And I go over here to Notepad.
in my second day pie and just
make sure you copy it and save it, and then we're gonna run it. So I'm gonna
all right, and I'll try to run it in my command prompt.
Okay, so attacker magic. I'm just gonna use magic and I'm gonna kill this guy. Make sure I win. Okay, so magic again. Oops, I misspelled it. Magic. Magic should kill the monster. There we go. So in my case, I used magic 3 times. Monster ended up with -4 health, and then I got 2 statements saying that I won.
You win, yeah, I got that too.
And the reason that happens is that although we have this while loop that's never going to end, it's while true. It's never, the statement's going to be true. So basically, it has no condition for it to ever stop. But thankfully, we can kind of put our own condition to stop by using a break statement down here on line 38. So when we win, the loop does eventually end. And when the loop does end on a break, it carries on to line 39, and then 40, 41, etc. So that's why we get 2 win statements. Because we win here on line 37, then it breaks out of the loop. That means we can finally go down to line 40, where we test to see if the player health points are greater than 0, and they are, so we win. But what I want to do now is I want to remove all this shit below the loop. I want to get rid of all this stuff down here below the loop. I'm actually going to do that right now. So 39 through 44 are all gone now, which means that we have no way to know if we've lost now. So what I want to do, Justin, is I want your help in doing a test to see when the player dies. And if the player dies, print off, you lose, and then break out of the loop. So what line do you think we would go to test if the player is dead? No, I think we lost Justin again. What's up, Jiffy? Bugboard Wounded Kitten. I'm sorry I'm not paying more attention to the chat, guys. Normally I would. But I'm very happy to have my man Justin here. Not trying to understand the question, user man. Minesweeper command line interface. That's really up my alley, Wounded Kitten. I love command line interfaces, especially when you try and mock up graphics. I'm actually making a Battleship clone here on the channel. Kind of a weird coincidence, right? Battleship and Minesweeper with pseudo command line graphics. It's like we're separated at birth. I'm sorry, Justin. Maybe it would be better for us to use the Twitch chat. I could probably make that work. I could probably just drag this out to another window. Here's some long variable names, dude, right here. We have, player health points, monster attack power. More do you want? Look at this line right here. Monster health points equals monster health points minus player attack power. That's kind of a mouthful. I wonder what's going on with Justin's Discord. As long as he's got a stream running, I think, right? Maybe he doesn't. If he does, do you think that would cut out if his Wi-Fi was going bad? Keep saying I'm in the voice channel, but you're losing. Did you hit the guy or miss him? Yeah, it says you're in the voice channel, but you can't hear anything, huh? That's frustrating. And I can't hear you. Well, let's troubleshoot this real quick. I'm gonna go to my other computer real quick. Sorry about the wait, guys. I'll put up the break screen while we do this real quick. We got plenty of time today, guys. We got plenty of time today. We're gonna be streaming for quite a long time. Okay, so I see myself in event commentary. I don't see Justin in event commentary. Sometimes Discord, you have to disable IPv6. I don't know. I'm not sure I would go that far for this level of troubleshooting. Maybe you should try restarting Discord, Justin. I'm sure you've already tried that, but make sure you totally close it. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Zori! I love your streams, although I understand. Yeah, that's what I did the first time. I think it's just my Wi-Fi acting wonky. I'll restart again, though. Wi-Fi acting wonky. ¿Qué pasa, weón? Right? Or is weón a bad word? ¿Qué pasa, weón? Hope it's not a bad word. No, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. It's already evening for you guys. I just basically got up. I got up and got the stream set up, and that's where we're at. Takes a long time to set up the programming streams, though, because you have to get a lot of windows open and move things around. It's not like just capturing HDMI. My day's just getting started. Same grind, different day, huh? Anything cool happen at your workplace, Chiefy? Got a crush on anybody? That's the best. I used to always have crushes on girls at work. It made life a lot more interesting. I've been okay, Chiefy. I had kind of a rough start to the day today. But it's oftentimes like that when you're a one-man production crew. Your nails still look nice. Do you want to smooch or something? Dude, I would date this dude, hell yeah. Look at that ass. My girlfriend works with me. Well, there you go. Can you imagine? Yeah, is that pretty complicated sometimes? How long her throat is. There was a time where I was working with my girlfriend for a while. And it made things kind of complicated. We changed something in line 12 through 14. That's what I said before I got cut off. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Why don't I, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up, yeah, I actually hide, I'm going to hide the Twitch chat here. I got an idea. It might work, it might not. Oh, but I still have to sign in to talk over there. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to try and sign in real quick on this browser. 1 second, guys. I'm going to sign in on this other computer so I can talk in the chat. Ugh, I hate this game. Oh, it's no problem, Justin. Hope this works. Yeah, go away. All these fucking prompts and messages and shit is really fucking annoying. Yo. How do I make this go away? Who are you pointing at? Fucker. I have an idea. Hi, friends. Okay, finally went away. Good stuff. Because I'm going to pull this chat box out. You suck, dude. And shrink it. What you guys gonna fucking do? It ain't fucking... And put it over here. I'm a fucking genius, guys. I'm a fucking genius, guys. Not really. I missed in chat here. So Jiffy works separate shifts with his girlfriend. Okay, so it is all good. Yeah, I used to work same shift with my girlfriend sometimes. And it made things a little bit complicated. David met his wife at work. Huh? Thankfully, we worked in different areas, and now she's in a different store, moving up the leadership chain. Okay, so I think what I can do now... I'm going to use this window. Chat box. Yeah, Patreon is way better, G-Feed. It's not even a comparison. I love the Twitch subs. They're very generous, but the Patreon support is... I wish that people that subbed on Twitch knew how much more helpful Patreon was. They definitely wouldn't subscribe on Twitch, I don't think. Okay. Sorry about the wait, guys. So now we have this other chat room up here. This should be a little bit easier for us to communicate now. In real time. I get $2.50 for every $5 sub. Thank you, Jiffy. I appreciate that. Yeah, on Twitch, they always take half. They take half the bits, they take half the subs. And on Patreon, they take like 10% of a, around 10%-ish of your Patreon dollar. Okay, so let's see if, okay, I'm gonna close my 1 second, guys. Okay, close the door there. Yeah, Twitch takes a lot. So if people knew that, I think they wouldn't do that. Okay, so let's see here. So I missed a message from Justin there. He said something about line 12. Let's see. 12 through 14. Yeah, Justin, I think that is... well, we could do that. All right, so I'm going to talk to Justin here. I think you're right, Justin. We could check to see if the player is alive before they take a turn. So, we could insert some code before line 9. That is before the player is asked for their command. If the player is dead, don't ask them for command, right? Wounded Kitten, it is indeed 50-50, even if you're partnered. But if you're a partner, you have authority to negotiate with Twitch for how much you make. But by default, it's 50-50. And you can negotiate, they can threaten to take away your partnership, at a certain point. So you have to have, basically, when you're a partner, depending on how much money you're bringing in for Twitch, you can say, hey, listen, you make, so much money off my channel, I want a little more of a cut, or I'm going to go to YouTube. Yeah, but by default, partner is 50-50 as well. And you can negotiate higher if Twitch thinks that you're an asset to the platform. Okay. What we need to do is an if statement for that. Like, is player health is equal to 0, we would break there. Would we break there? Yeah, that's exactly what it would be. Yeah, exactly, Justin. But we can't test for whether or not the player's health equals 0. Or, is equal to 0. Because their health might be in the negative if they're dead. In fact, I just realized we have a bug at line 31. So in line 31, we test if the monster's health is greater than 0. And if they're greater than 0, they get a turn. No, that's fine. That's fine. No, I take it back. I take it back. If the monster's health is greater than 0, they're still alive. If we wanted to test the negative, we could say, if monster health points is less than or equal to 0. So we could test, so let's say, so on line 9, we could test if the player is still alive, greater than 0 health, or if they're dead, less than or equal to 0 health. $50% of the maintenance cost. Yeah. Exactly, Zanzu. Yeah, Twitch is a pretty good pretty good platform, but I feel like they take a lot. They take a lot out of the Twitch subs. It's a little bit excessive, I feel like. 50% is really crazy. I mean, considering the fact that Twitch would have nothing if there weren't creators on here, right? The creators are why people come here. But it's whatever. Chief says if player health points are less than 0, or greater than 0. Okay, so that means if the player is still alive. So Jiffy thinks we should do the test for whether the player is alive or not. I like that too, since it's consistent with how we test the monster's health. For the monster, we test if their health is greater than 0 on line 31. So maybe on line 9, we should test if the player's health is greater than 0 before we ask them for, ask them to take a turn. And so, Justin, why don't you do me a favor and see if you can input that yourself? I feel like wiring up probably isn't an option for Justin. So we're moving to Twitch chat for now. Well, if it were an option, I imagine he would have already done it. Probably too far from the router. That should do the trick. So Justin says, should I start the same way line 31 started? Just replace monster health with player health. Just to make sure things are indented correctly. But yeah, it should be indented correctly anyway. If you, use the same kind of code. Basically, the way indentation works, guys, is you indent based on what logical block the code is inside. So basically, we indent by 4 spaces for all the code within the while loop. Right? So all this code's in the while loop, but then it's 4 spaces deep. And then we have a nested statement here. So we have a code block within a code block. So then we put another 4 spaces for this if loop. But when we get, this code we have right now is the code that me and my friend Undead Kaiju wrote a couple weeks ago. And Justin watched our YouTube video where we wrote that code. It's at our YouTube channel at Vencabot, at youtube.com/VencabotArchive. And now he's all caught up with us. He's going to help us continue the code. We couldn't get Kaiju here today. There are boosting options for wired and Wi-Fi. Okay. So if player health points are greater than 0, I like that. We need a colon though. Here at the end of line 9. Whenever you have any kind of logical block, it always ends with the colons. We have while true, colon, then indent. We have if user command equals whatever, then colon, and then indent. There we go. And I have to indent all the code that only runs if that statement is true. So if player health points is greater than 0, then what needs to get done? What happens only if their health is greater than 0? They would get prompted they'd be able to keep attacking, right? So we do indent. I'm going to actually do it here. I'm going to indent this code here. In fact, all this stuff only happens if the player's alive, right? All this stuff only happens if the player's alive. So we can actually indent all this stuff. So I'm going to do that right now. Make it a little bit wider so we can not have too much lines getting broken. Okay, so we have the spaces, dude, the spaces. We have a logical problem here. Here's my logical problem that I want to bring up. This code will work fine. It'll work great, in fact. So now all this shit only happens if the player is still alive. They only get to take a turn if they're alive. We should also break here, right? So if the player, we're going to say, let's just say hypothetically, else, let's go back here. Else print you lose, because we know they're dead, right? Then we're going to break out. So when I say break out, it means it ignores all this code and goes to the end of the loop. The end of the loop is down here. There's no more code left in the program ends. So now we can win or lose and within the while loop. But here's the logical fallacy. Right? Here's the logical fallacy. We also don't even need to test this shit. Right? Like this, if monster health points is greater than 0, we don't test this anymore if the player is dead. Right? So it's like this code is kind of a weird layout. I think it would be more economical for us to test if the player is dead, because we wouldn't have to indent all this stuff, right? So here's what I'm talking about, right? So basically, I'm gonna actually get in the Twitch chat here. As the program is now, we test if the player is still alive. If the player is still alive, we do a lot of stuff. If they're dead, we break out of the loop. And we're done. What's up, apples? Bookboard the nitwit. Well, I'm too late to catch up with you guys. I'm going to get the code and kind of play with it. See you tomorrow. Good night, nitwit. Okay. So I propose that instead of burying all of the code in a conditional based on the player being alive, we just assume the player is alive. Here's what I mean. So here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to actually get rid of this altogether. It was a really good. The code will work. Justin was right in that respect. But the problem with that is that we have all this code indented. All this code runs if the player is alive. Okay. So here's what I think we should do. I think instead of saying only run this code if he's alive, because he's going to be alive most of the time, right? We're going to say don't run this code if he's dead. So we're going to do like Justin said. We're going to go to line 9. That's where we want to have this test happen. And we're going to say, if player health points are less than or equal to 0, if they're dead, then print you lose. And then we're going to break. So basically, by having this break statement here, what we're saying is, if the player is dead, then don't do all this stuff, right? That way, we don't have to indent all of it. Userman says, if else, print invalid. So yeah, so basically, we're doing the same test Justin suggested, but instead of having it be based on if the player is alive, do all this stuff, we're saying if the player is dead, don't do all this stuff. Lurton says, how does it know where you're breaking? It breaks, the code, it flows from top to bottom. The code flows from top to bottom. So basically, when we say break, it means end this while loop. Get out of the while loop. So actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of explicitly end the while loop. So we're going to go down here to the end of the code on line 43. And we're going to say print game over. Exactly, user man. So basically, we have this while true loop. And as long as the while true loop is running, that means the game is happening. A player's taking his turn, monster's taking his turn. Then when we break out of the loop, we end up down here at line, 43. Right? So we print game over now. Okay. If you need to break over more, either return or a variable is needed. Yeah. Because it's a little bit advanced. That's a little bit advanced what we're doing here. But you're right, user man. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to basically try and stay one loop at a time. We're not going to loop within loops if we can help it. Okay. All right, so now the game works better than it did before. The player only gets a turn if he's alive, and the monster only gets a turn if it's alive. It is GFI, yeah. Minus equals is a command in Python, but it's just to call it syntactic sugar. Syntactic sugar. It's not something that you need to use. So I don't want to get into that. I like very simple, equals. Basically I don't want to make the assignment too complicated. I'm trying to keep assignments pretty simple here. This being our second day ever doing Python. Yeah, minus equaled is much shorter, but I feel like it makes more sense to look at it in terms of simple arithmetic, right? Something equals something minus something. Okay. So let's run this code and make sure that I got game over working. So I'm going to copy all this code. I'm going to paste it over here in my notepad. Actually, I don't actually put the notepad over here. I don't see why I shouldn't. Well, I get syntactic diabetes from too much syntactic sugar. No. In fact, I highly recommend it, Wounded Kid. And again, me and our friend Kaiju and our friend Justin are beginners in Python. And I want to keep the sugar to a minimum because I want to have it be more universally understood. In terms of we can go to JavaScript, we can go to C++, we can go to whatever language with these ideas. Right. That being said, if you're a Python user, please use all the syntactic sugar because it makes it a lot easier to read. But we're not going to touch on that right now. So I'm going to get rid of all this code and paste this, save it. Okay. So we're going to use attack or magic. Let's do... I didn't even know about that syntactic sugar. I did not know that that // was a floor divide. That's kind of sick. Let's attack or magic. I'm going to do a magic. Magic. Then kill the monster. One more magic. We should get a game over message here. There we go. So you win, game over. So what happens here is the monster has a, this conditional here. Let's actually get rid of this. Go back here. It's this conditional right here. So we took our turn. Then the monster's health was below below 0, right? So this test failed. the if monster health greater than 0 test failed. That means we hit this else statement, right? If this fails, we go down here. And then we got print you win. It broke. We got the game over down here. Will have any graphics? Depends, Lord Johnny. Depends on how long the series goes. Yeah, no time in the near future, that's for sure. We're really touching on basic programming concepts, not really basic game design concepts. If I was doing basic game design concepts, we might mess with Pygame later on, but I don't think so. Okay. So, here's what I want to do now. What I want to do now is, well, first I just want to say, let's say, do you have any questions? It's a bit more difficult when we're not on Discord. If monster type is Gphy's X and the monster equivalence is greater than 0, print you fucking win. Yeah, we don't have any. I was thinking, about how we're going to do this today, Gphy, and I don't want to introduce randomness yet. So we won't have random monster types. I don't want to introduce randomness yet. Everything here is very rigid. If we lost Justin, I'll have to carry on without him. Which is kind of a drag. Kind of defeats the point of the series. But c'est la vie. Thank you, Nitwit. Yeah, that's a good idea, too. But we're not going to mess with that for now. It's a bit more advanced in our needs here, Nitwit. But you're right. That would be useful for running the code outside of a command prompt. We're going to assume the player is always in a command prompt, though, for now. What Nitwit is saying is, if you run the Python code without a command prompt, then it will open a command prompt for you. And the command prompt will automatically end when the program's over. That means that the player will not be able to read the game over message. It'll just go away. So basically what happens, well, it's like game over, then the window will close. If we put an input at the end, it'll wait for the player to press enter. So that's a good idea. I'd get in the call, but I think you're too far for me to join in. Yeah, perhaps, George Johnny. It's an RPG with no RNG, exactly. It's the player's dream until they realize RNG is what makes it an RPG, yeah. I'm trying my best to follow along, trying my best to not get overwhelmed, but my first question is, how would you know when to put certain lines in? Like you were to swap lines next to each other. Well, the lines flow in order from top to bottom. The computer just reads each line and does what it says. So the order you put the lines in is very important. In fact, let's cover that basic idea. In fact, I'm going to go on a tangent to cover that basic idea. So let's go back to our Notepad document. Let's open a new one. Okay, so I have two windows now? No, I don't. It's fine. So we're going to save this as, line order.py. So in line order.py, we're going to talk about the importance of line order. So again, lines in any programming language are read from top to bottom and executed. So here's what we're going to do in this program. We're going to say, our number equals 4. Then we're going to say, print our number, right? So we have two lines. Very, very simple program, right? Only two lines. First line, we define our number. On the first line, we assign a name, our number, to 4. So now 4 is referred to as our number. And then we print our number. So let's go and run that code, shall we? So let's go here and we're going to do pi line order dot pi. Hey, 4. Right, so 4 gets printed off. He says, Justin, one important thing to remember is to define your variable first, because if you try it to use it before defining it, it'll throw an error. Yeah, because I can see myself getting stumbled if you were to ask me if you want something edited or want a different scenario in that game. Yeah, I totally understand, Justin. I was thinking about that, I was thinking last time when me and Kaiju ended our stream that I didn't really appreciate how important the very basics of line order are. I wish I had told Undead Kaiju more about that. I knew it was going to be a problem. I knew it was going to be an issue, Justin, when I asked you guys to make edits, because I figured you guys were kind of following along with me. You didn't really know why I was putting things in certain spots. But it's very simple, really. It's very simple to know why I'm putting things in certain spots. It's that things in a program happen in order from top to bottom. So I'm going to demonstrate what Gifu's saying. Let's change the order of these lines. I'm going to take this line here, print our number. I'm going to put it before our number equals 4. There you go. So I'm going to print the number first. All right? Let's see what happens here. I get an error. It says name our number is not defined. So what happens is we start our program. It says print our number. There is no our number. We don't know what our number is yet, right? Because it hasn't happened yet. It's chronological from top to bottom. So we're assigning our number after we try and print it. There's nothing to print. It doesn't exist yet on this line, right? That's why I have an error message there. Here's another thing we can do, right? Let's do this code. Let's say our number equals 3, right? Then we print our number, and then our number equals 4. Then the program ends. There's no more code here. That's where the program ends at. So let's try this. Okay, so it says 3, right? It prints off 3 right here. That's because we say our number equals 3, and then print our number, and then our number equals 4. So yeah, our number equals 4 by the end of the program, but it never gets printed off. Right? It never gets printed off. So when we see, when it actually gets printed off, it's a 3 still. Right? It's a 3 when it gets printed off, and then we change it to 4 and the program ends. So if we move this line down now, right, now we moved this print to the end, to after the assignment to 4. What's going to happen, do you think? We get a 4, right? Now we get a 4 printed off. Because now we're saying our number equals 3. Then we're saying, on second thought, our number equals 4. Then we're saying print our number. So at this point in the code, our number equals 4. That's why it gets printed off as 4. So let's read from top to bottom. Let's go talk about, a more complex example. Our fucking RPG, right? This is a more complex example. So basically, here's why you were right when you said, test if the player's alive on line 9. Because we assign some stats, right? The player attack power, magic power, health points, monster attack power, and health points. Then we start a loop, while true. And so as soon as the loop starts, we start here on line 9. If the player is dead, right? So I'm actually going to decode this. If the player is dead, then do stuff, right? Then we print you lose, and we break. That ends the program. That ends the while loop. So as soon as the code starts, we say, is the player alive or not? And we know, of course, he's alive, right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? I'm going to explain that in a minute here. So in the first loop, we know the player's alive because he starts off with 20 health points. But here's why it's important to put the line right here on line 9. Because when this loop ends, right here, right? Let's say on line 36. If the monster's still alive, he hurts the player, right? Right here, the player health points changes on line 37. Right here, the player health point is getting changed because the monster is attacking him. So player health points is, we subtract the monster's attack power. So the monster is attacking. Then we print off a message and whatever. We print the message off and we're done. But down here, this code, if this code is run, right? If this code right here is run, this code is not run, right? Because we have an if-else statement here. So to reiterate here, we say, if this statement is true, do this code, right? Do this code. Else, so if this stuff is not true, then do this code. It's a fork in the road right here. We have a fork in our road. If monster health is greater than 0, they get a turn. Else, so if monster health points is not greater than 0, then print you win and break. if the monster is still alive, do this. Else, we know the monster is dead because we know it's not alive. Print you win and then break out of this loop. But let's say we never break here, right? So if we don't get to this code, so if the monster is still alive, he gets a turn, and then we don't get a break, right? There's no break. So it goes right back to the top of the loop. And we say, is the player still alive? If he's not, print you lose. That's why it's important to have it on line 9, right, Justin? Because we say here, we just damaged the player. The player just took damage right here. And then we go back to the top. The player takes damage, we go back to the top. Is the player still alive? Right? If he is, that's fine. If he's not, then break. Right? If he's not alive anymore, then break this loop and we're done. Go down here and print game over. So Jiffy says that basically the else can be replaced by if. Exactly. Also, let's do that for Jiffy. So we can actually replace this with if monster health points is greater than or is less than or equal to 0, then do this. So if he's still alive, then do this. If he's dead, do this. But there's another reason to use else. Else is much shorter, right? Else is shorter. But also, it saves on computational power, right? Because whenever you ask a question to the computer, it takes up power. Right. So this if statement here is taking up resources in the computer, very very minimal resources, but resources nonetheless. So what's happening here is we can say, if monster health points is greater than 0, that means it's still alive. Do this stuff. Then we say, if that same value is less than or equal to 0, well, we already know it's greater than 0 or not. We already asked that question once. We already asked it right here if it's alive or dead. So why ask the question again? Instead, let's just say, if that's not true, aka else. Else just means if the last if was not true, then do this stuff. If it's true, do this. If it's not true, do that. Why while not player health points greater than or equal to 0? Well, we had that before. Because then if we did it that way, then if the monster died, it would still keep looping. But yeah, like what Nitwit's saying is we had the same code we had last time. The code we had last time was we would run the code as long as the player and monster were still alive. But we're changing it now to use while true and then break statements. And Nitwit's very correct. Yeah, so basically, we run this code if the condition is true. If it's true, we do this. And then if the condition is false, so if monster health points greater than 0 is not true, so that means if their health points are 0 or below, and in the negatives, this is not true, right? Monster health points is not greater than 0; it's below 0 or equal to 0. That means that we run this else statement. And if we run the else statement, we know the monster is dead. Right? I'm going to put that code right here, in fact. We know the monster is dead. And on this line, we know the monster is alive. So we run this code if he's alive, run the code if he's dead. If he's dead, we break out of the loop. That's game over. Right? We're done. No more turns getting taken. No more messages being printed off. We're done with this loop. And basically, if we don't get a break, that means that if the monster is alive, we kind of go back to the top, right? So that means we go end here, we go back to the top because it's a while loop, and then we test if he's alive or dead. Yeah, Nitwit's totally correct. It would totally work fine. We could do this, we'd run this code like this. We could say while player health points are greater than 0. But the problem is we need to add an if statement down here then. Right. So here's the problem with Nitwit's idea. We would say, if the player is, so basically we're going to say, right here, we're going to say, run this loop as long as the player is alive. That means we can assume the player is alive. We can get rid of this code right here then. We can get rid of this code right here, hypothetically. So basically now, what this means, Justin, is that we run this code and it only breaks when this is not true anymore. right? So a while statement has a condition as well. So once this is no longer true, then this when it gets to the bottom, so basically, excuse me, this statement here is tested every time the while loop recycles on itself. So that means that after line 41 here, then it goes back to the top, it tests the statement again. And if that statement's not true, then it just doesn't even bother looping, it goes right down to line 43. So we say, as long as the player health points is greater than 0, then keep on looping once we hit the bottom. But the problem is that now, if we end this loop, how do we know, nitwit, if the player or the monster is dead? Right? Who won? We don't know who won. That's why we changed it. This is the code we had last time. So we had this code last time where it would keep on looping as long as the monster and the player were alive. And then at the end, here at line 43, we would test to see who was dead and who was alive. But instead of doing that now, we're going to test inside the loop. So for simple, if the time the block is true, it'll continue to go over and over, and if it's not true, meaning one of the players had died, then the else if it comes into play, and then you break and the game ends. Yeah. But I feel like you're confusing. Oh, no, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. You're exactly right. So basically, let's go back to our old code, right? We're going to put this while true. I'm going to explain what Justin means, right? This is what Justin means. So we're going to make sure, we're going to say, if, we had player health points less than or equal to 0, we know he's dead. We know the player is dead. We print off, you lose, and then we break out of this loop. So basically, what Justin is saying is down here in the. So let's be clear. The while loop, this block of code, is going to loop forever now because we have this while true statement. Right. So we're saying that before we had while player health points are greater than 0. This is a condition, right? It's tested. We're testing this every single time. So while player health points are greater than 0, run the code. But this evaluates to true or false. If this is true, then run. If this is false, stop running. But if we just say while true, true is always true, right? Right? So because true is always true, this loop will run until it hits break. Right? If we said while false, this would never ever run. This code would never run even once. Because if the second half of a while statement evaluates to false, then it doesn't run anymore. Right? It stops running. So while true is always true, and while false is always false. So it'll never run. But we're going to say while true. So the statement, our test is just true. There's no test. It's just true. And what Justin's saying is that down here is where the loop ends. Right? I'm going to get rid of all this comments here. All right, so this is the final conditional, let's just call it logic block. This is the final logic block of the while loop. You can tell because after this if else, we're not indented anymore. Right? So as long as we're indented, we're inside this while loop. Right? This is where the while loop starts. Everything after this is indented. This all runs inside this loop until line 46. Right? So this is where the loop ends. So the last line of code in the loop is this stuff. This is the last code we have in the loop. What Justin is saying is that basically, as long as we don't hit this else, right? As long as we don't hit this, I'm going to put some code here. As long as we don't hit this else, so let's call it trigger. As long as we don't trigger this else, there's no break. We keep looping. you know, you know, keep looping. How about that? So basically what Justin kind of noticed is that there is no break on here on line 40. Right? There's no break here. So basically, if monster is greater than 0, we hit line 40, there's no more code below the else, there's no more code in this loop, so we go right back to the top. We're here on line 10. We go from 10 down to line 35, then we test this, and depending on what happens on line 35, we either do this, or we do this. If we do this, there's no break, so we go right back up to line 10 again. If we go to this, there is a break, so we're done. That's it. We go down to line 46 and then 47. What am I missing in the chat here? Let's see here. So Jiffy says, yeah, but the while statement is more intensive than a simple if check and makes more sense with static variables. I don't know, Jiffy. I don't think that's true. Let's see here. A case will be cool, but Python don't has it. Oh yeah, Python has cases. Yeah, Python does have cases, believe it or not, dude. And Python's called elif. But yeah, we're not going to go into that right now, though. But it does indeed have a case statement, basically. Might be easier to understand if you did while player is greater than 0, move the death message below so it only hits outside the loop. Yeah, you don't need to use a dictionary. You can just use elif to make a case. Question: what would happen if you were to switch lines 35 through 40 with 18 through 28? Let's find out. So 35 through 40, right here. Well, no. For one thing, I'm going to make a message here. It would be a syntax error. You know, code written wrong. Because else has to directly follow an if block. We would need to move lines 35 through 45 because the else needs to be moved with its if. But I think what Justin's saying is that we could do that. Let's see, 18 through 35 up here. I mean, yeah, there's no reason. But you're right, no. But you're right. Because we're looping, there's no, let's just say, there's very little difference between what happens at the end of the loop and what happens at the start of the loop. Especially because we're using break statements. I mentioned before that the while statement is followed by a condition that determines whether or not the code block starts again after it reaches the end of the while indenting. So if we had a complex condition for the while loop, it becomes important what happens at the end of the loop. Basically, what happens at the end of the loop will determine if it restarts. Because after the loop ends, the while's condition is rechecked. In our case, though, our condition is just true. There's nothing being checked. It just loops. And when we want to break out of the loop, we do it manually with break statements. For that reason, there is basically no difference between what happens at the very end of the loop or what happens at the very start of the loop. So let's do what Jetstream just suggested. Move the check if the monster is alive block from the end to the start. So we're going to take lines 35. I'll get rid of all these comments, because these comments are kind of distracting me. I'm going to go through it and delete every comment in the code. You guys know what this code means anyway by now. Okay. All these lines that start with a hashtag, just get rid of them. Go away. What's up, dicks? Okay. So we're going to move this code here, where we see the monster's still alive. Right here, line 31 through 38 now. Okay, so we have this, if he's alive, do this. If he's dead, then break. We're going to cut this and put it right at the very top. That's what Justin said, right? What did Justin say? What line do you want us to put it at? 18 to 28. 18 to 20, right here. Oh, 18... Let's see here. So which line? 18 to 28. I guess I've lost track of what 18 was. I think 18 was this statement here. But yeah, we can do that. It means right here. We got Zanzu and Dix, the dream team. Okay. Okay, guys. So we made the change, right? Oh, well, here's a problem with that. The problem is we already prompted the user for a turn. Right, so let's actually not do it like that way. So basically what's happening now, I'm going to type in the chat here. So what's happening now is that when the loop restarts, we ask if the player is alive, or if he's dead. If he's dead, we stop the loop right away. Let's just say we break out of the loop. We break out of the loop. If the loop isn't broken, in other words, if the player isn't dead, we ask the player for some input. Do they want to use attack or magic? Yeah, Justin's here in the chat, Zanzu, but he's having trouble with Discord. The problem with our code right now is that immediately after the user or the player, thank you for the follow, Shura. Welcome aboard, dude. Right when the player after that's for his input, and after the player is asked for a command, we ask if the monster is still alive. If the monster is dead, we hit line 21, which is, which is the else statement that tells the player they win and we break out of the loop. So what was the point of asking the player if they wanted to use attack or magic? So what's with speech to text? Well, because I got some guys in the chat. They're trying to follow along. I want to have like a little, a notepad they can review while I'm talking. Sorry if it bothers you guys that I'm talking and typing at the same time. So here's what we're going to do. So I propose that we move the is the monster still alive check to just before the player is asked for input. Okay? So that means I'm going to just take this code here. And put it right here. There you go. Okay, you can put some empty lines just to make it a little bit more readable. Empty lines in Python are totally meaningless. So that just means you can make it, you can use as many lines as you want. You can just make as many lines as you want to make it more readable for yourself. In this case, I'm putting some empty lines, before and after some if and else blocks to make them kind of visually separate. Okay. So let's do some responsible stuff. I gotta do some major cleaning. Oh no, not cleaning. We're getting some inspection people coming over on Monday/Tuesday. Then all the stuff that needs to be done, but not going out. I'm sorry, Zanzu. But hopefully you can get it done without too much trouble, and then you can move on with your life. Okay. So let's look at the state of our code now. No, not quite yet, Lord Johnny. Not yet. Probably gonna do that again next week, I'll bet you. All right, so we assign some stats here. Player attack power, player magic power, player health points. We make the monster, monster attack power, monster health points. Then we start our while loop. While true. Right, so while true. So we're not even testing anything. Nothing here is getting tested. We're saying if true is true, then run this code and then run it again and run it again, run it again. Right? True is gonna always be true. Just keep running the code forever. First thing we do is we check if the player is dead. Right? Do you have less than or equal to 0 health? That means are you at 0 or below 0? Then you're dead, dude. You're dead. You lose. Then we break the code. So we're saying don't even do any of this shit after this. None of this shit happens now. All we do is jump down out of the loop, and the loop ends here at line 38 is the last line. So we jump right down here to line 39. What's up, token guy? Nerd. So if the player is dead, print you lose, break. Break means stop looping, stop all this shit, and go right down to where the code ends, which is right here at 39. Then print game over. There's no more code down here. That's it. The program ends. We're making an RPG, dick sucker. A very simple RPG. Right now, we have a player and a monster, and they fight each other. We can choose to either attack the monster with our sword or use a fireball. Yeah, let me show you. So, in this case, because the program flows from top to bottom, you don't want to define these variables inside the loop. I'll show you why. So basically, we could take all these lines right here, right? And we're going to cut these. And we're going to put them right here inside the loop. So we're going to indent them. If we don't indent them, we get an error, right? It's going to be a syntax error. But Justin already realizing why this is a bad idea. Okay, so now our program starts with a while loop, right? So now our program starts with the while loop. Yeah, Nitwit's correct. Nitwit's correct. So basically, the first thing we do in our while loop is we say, player attack power is 3. We assign all this shit. Then we say, are you still alive? Then you lose, right? Or if you're dead, you lose. If the monster is dead, you win. If he's alive, do this stuff. But then we say, if we're still at this point, because we're breaking here, right? We break here if the player is dead. We break here if the monster is dead. So if we're here at line 21, if we made it 21, we know that the monster and player are still alive, right? Because we made it this far. We know we haven't broken yet. The player and monster are alive. We ask the player, hey, do you want to attack? If they want to attack, we do this. If they want to use magic, we do that. You guys know the deal. Then we print out the monster's health. Then we go back to the top, right? We go back to the top. What happens at the top, Justin? Well, the player attack power becomes 3. The player magic becomes 8. The player health points goes back to 20. Here's our problem, right? This game will never end because when we go back to the top of the while loop, then the player's health points goes back to 20. I'll demonstrate that now. So let's, I'm sure Justin realized that pretty quick. So let's select all here. Go to our notepad document. I'm going to open our secondday.py. Select all here. Paste our new code. Okay, so our code with our assignments being done inside the while loop. All right, so let's go back here and run second day. Okay, so the players... oh, the monster bit me on the ass right away, for one thing. That's a bug. Why did that happen? Let me go check here. Oh, the monster gets a first turn now. Look, because if the monster is still alive, he gets a turn before we get asked to attack. Oh my god. That's fine. It just, that just means the monster gets a first turn now. Isn't that interesting? I didn't even think about that. So basically, what happens here now is that if you follow the code from top to bottom, we check if the monster is still alive, right? If he is, he attacks us. Right? If he's not alive, we end the game. But then we get our turn. So now we get jumped first. Okay, that's kind of fine. That works for me, I guess. So we're gonna say, we're gonna just use magic. Okay, but look at, we're still at 15 health, right? That's because we went back up here again, got our health restored right here. So I'm gonna put a little comment here. This restores our health. And, this restores the monster's health. Right? So we can never win this game now. Because we always start with the same amount of health. Right? Every turn our health gets restored. Because we moved the health assignment into the while loop. What I missed in the chat here. Reminder, this is basically part 2 of the intro to Python. Yeah, exactly, Zanzu. The first part's on YouTube. The nitwit says, and the game just keeps asking what to do and actually doesn't do anything because it'll never meet a condition that ends with break. Why isn't hide behind a shield? Now we can do that. If you want. I guess we'll have a hide behind the shield option. Let's just say, attack, magic, or shield. I'm going to add this line of code right here. Actually, I'm going to take all this code. Select all, copy, and go back to this window so Justin can follow along if he wants. All right. Control V. All right, so we're going to move this code. We're going to get rid of the health restoration. We'll keep that for now. We'll keep health restoration here. It's a bug. We're going to fix that bug later. Okay, I'll ask Justin to fix that bug for us. So let's go down here, attack, magic, or shield. We're going to say it's attack or magic. We're going to say if user command... Oh, it's going to be complicated to program this. I take it back. Let's not do this right now. I just realized we have to make some adjustments to make this work. We'll do that later on, though, for sure. Especially now that the monster gets his turn second. Or gets his turn first. That's fine, though. I know this question is far too advanced for today, but in theory, what if we made an RPG where we fought monsters like what we have now, but different monsters have different speeds and it gets the first turn? Dude, we can do that right fucking now, dude. Make the turns randomized, the code is already on top. Yeah, we'll see here. We've got about an hour left on stream. We could actually implement that right now. The monster speed thing. Although we don't have a way to randomize the monster speed. Well, hey, we have a shield for a reason. That's true. Let's list the ideas such as just resistance so we can try them then. Yeah, we should do that. It's a good idea, dude. We should make like a list of things we want to do. But let's implement a simple speed mechanic. First of all, well, I'm going to ask Justin to help. I think Justin, even though we're communicating via text here, it makes it a little bit slower. I think that I can still get Justin's help here on this. So, Justin, please do me a favor and fix the bug where the player and monster health are restored every turn. To do that, you need to make sure that the player and monster health aren't assigned to exactly 20 every time the loop restarts. Which is why we had those assignments before the loop. Before. That way, the monster health and player health are only assigned to 20 once. Here we go. Just making changes. Changes. Okay. All right. We gotta make sure we fix the indenting too. Since indented code is only for, you know, logical blocks like while, if, and else. Python uses the number of spaces at the start of a line to know if code is in a logical block. Okay, so we still have a typo here on line 4. I'm going to fix that for him. Line 4, line 3, there we go. Okay, so now we're totally flush. We're totally flush with the left-hand side of the screen. So now this code will work. Okay, so now the player and monster health are no longer restored every turn. Also, they're not repetitively getting their attack and magic power reset, which saves computational power, even though it wouldn't have caused a bug. The attack and magic power being reset every turn doesn't cause a bug because the attack and magic power were never changing anyway. But it's good that you moved those out of the loop, because there's no reason to keep reassigning them every time the while loops over itself. Yo, what's up, dude? Long time no see, man. Got quit in the chat. Making CLI games, dude. Making some CLI games. Okay. Justin, why don't you assign a speed value to the player and the monster? You can make either one higher than the other one. Whoever has... Yeah, we'll say that for now. Needs more pig ASCII, huh? Yeah, I ain't got no ASCII here. Just no ASCII art, that is. It's just straight up command prompts, and it's kind of more like Zork. Okay, so he's entering a player speed value. Here's player speed points, I like that. Okay, equals 1. Oh, equals 10, alright. Then we have monster speed points equals just 8. Okay. Okay, so now we have these, you know, a player has speed and a monster has speed, right? So now we need to do, so now we need to test, you know, let's just say, so every time the loop, the while loop, we need to test, you know, which character has more speed. The player, or the character with the most speed will get their turn first. Here's how I propose we do it. So, let's say, you know, right at the start of the loop, let's decide who's going to get their turn first. So let's go right here to, you know, line 14. If, you know, player speed points is greater than monster speed points, then let's get them a turn, right? So we'll just say, we'll do all this, we'll copy paste all this code down here. Let's go down here to line 29, where the user turn, the player turn starts. Right, just copy all this code over. This is the entire, so basically line 29 through 45 is the player's turn, right? And on these lines, you prompt them for a command. We figure out what command they want to do, whether it's attack or magic, or something we don't know what it is yet. And then we print off the monster's health, how much health he has left, and then, you know, we're done. So that's the player's turn, right? All that code is the player's turn. So we're going to go down here. We're going to paste all this code. Okay. Now, because all of this code only runs if the if statement returns true, we got to indent it. It's inside of the if logical block. So I'm going to do that right now. It is always true, yes, Nitwit. So what Nitwit's pointing out is that the player speed points is always higher than monster speed points, so we see it right here. We can tell right here that player speed points is higher, right? It never changes. So we always know it's going to be true. But what we could do is we could rerun the program later on and mess with these stats. We can make the player have more health. You know, we can make the player slow as all get out by changing its, you know, speed down to like 1 or whatever. But yeah, so right now, Nitwit's correct that in this code as it runs right now, it's always going to be true for us. The player is faster. But we can always change the code. There's an idea called a constant that we're not talking about yet. But I'm going to introduce the idea of constants soon. But just so you guys know, for the future, if you have a variable in your code that never changes anywhere else in the code, it's called a constant. So basically, the player attack power, the magic power, and the speed points, these are all constants. They're not changing in our code. And the first logical branch. User commands logical branch. Well, I mean, but we don't want for the player to get an input before it's their turn, right? I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, Quentin. But I don't understand what you mean. You have to describe your idea better, for my sake. Okay, so we indent this code. We indent this code as well here. Okay, So the first thing that happens is we ask if the players, and again, keep in mind, this is for our guys that are literally their first day ever programming, Quentin. So I'm doing some very basic. I wouldn't normally do some of this stuff normally. It's a little bit long-winded. Later on, we're going to find out ways we can make shortcuts to make it not quite so long and verbose. But for now, we're kind of keeping it verbose because we don't want to have to describe how things like function definitions work. You can choose your option and it's stored somewhere until your attack bar is full. Well, that's true, but in this case, we don't know what the monster has done yet. We're not sure what our health is yet. You know, we don't want to have we don't want to pick an option and then have the monster attack us before our turn comes out. I don't feel like. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. So we basically, you know, as soon as our loop starts, we ask if the player is faster. Right? If the player is faster, they get a turn. Right? They get a turn. Then the monster does. If the monster is alive. Right? So we get on here now. And we're going to give the monster a turn. So here's where the monster's turn starts, right? Right down here in line 39. If the monster's health points are greater than 0, he gets a turn. Otherwise, he wins. Right? Otherwise, the player wins. Right? If the monster's not alive anymore, then the player wins. So we're going to copy this code. And put it right here. After the player gets his turn. I know it's getting a little bit long now. I'm actually going to show you guys in a minute how to make this shorter. So we're going to indent this code as well. So if monster health points are greater than 0, do this stuff. Okay. I can get rid of this code now. I copied it, didn't actually cut it, so we can get rid of this code. Same with this code here, actually. You don't need to do this anymore. So this code can go away. It's just a copy-pasted. We already copy-pasted this stuff, so there you go. Okay, right? So basically, here's how our code works now. Okay, so I'm going to go down. So here's how our code works now. First, we define some attributes for the characters, including health, physical attack power, magical attack power, and speed. Once we've defined all of these attributes, we begin a loop where the actual combat happens. It's a loop because it keeps running until somebody dies. But you wouldn't know that just from looking at the condition of the while statement. Our while statement has no condition that can vary between true and false. It's just true. This loop will run forever until it's manually broken by somebody force closing the software, or the loop hits a break statement. There is one more condition where it would end, but I'm not going to go to that right now. Using the return statement would also end it. But yeah, in our case, it's going to run until it breaks, right? So our loop is going to run until it breaks. Thankfully, we have two situations which will break us out of our loop. The player dies or the monster dies. Right? You can see both those break statements. One's right here. Right? If we have if monster health points is greater than 0, if the monster is still alive, do this. Else, break. Right? Else the monster is dead. You win, then we break. Then we say if the player's health points are less than or equal to 0, then print you lose. Right? So I'm actually going to move this if statement here on line 44 through 46. So here's the test to see if the player is dead, right? We only have to test if the player is dead, right? we only have to test if the player is dead after after they take damage. If the player hasn't taken any damage, it makes no sense to test if they're dead. I'm going to move the if player health points less than or equal to 0 conditional block to directly after the player takes damage. So what I mean by that is, here you have this monster, right? The monster gets a turn right here. This is where the monster's turn happens. In fact, right here, on line 36, is where the actual damage is done, right? The player health points change. This stat changes, right? This attribute changes. So we're going to actually move this code, right, to here. Right? And because it's happening inside this loop, excuse me, inside this if block, so we have an if within an if now. I'm going to actually move this message up as well. Okay, so here's where I changed, right? So before, at the end of every turn, no matter what happened on that turn, we'd always check to see if the player was alive, right? And then if he wasn't alive, we'd say you lose. Now we're going to only ask if the player's alive if the monster got a turn, right? So we're going to say now, I'm actually going to indent this too. Excuse me, break this up visually with some blank lines. Okay, so we say, if monster health points are greater than 0, if he's still alive, then he attacks, right? After he attacks, if the player health points are greater than or equal to 0, less than, if he's dead, then you lose, then break, right? Otherwise, keep on going. So now we only ask if the player is dead after they take damage, right? So we have this if within an if. If the player is alive, hit him. If the monster is still alive, hit the player. Then if the player is dead, break out. Right? If the player is not dead, we carry on, print off the player's health, print off a message, go back to the top of the loop. Okay? So this is what happens if the player speed points. So now basically all of our code, right? All of our code in this, look how deep we're indented, right? Look how deep we're indented here. That's because all of this code is running not only in the while loop, but also inside this if statement. Right? All this code only runs if the player speed points are greater than the monster speed points. Because we have an if statement directly, within our while loop. Let's call this a while block. Excuse me, an if block. Within our while block. And all of our code in the while block is also in the if block. All this stuff only happens, this stuff only happens if the player's speed is higher than the monster's. Right? So basically, we, while true, we ask, hey, listen, is the player faster than the monster? If so, give the player a turn, right? Then give the monster his turn, and then loop back to this top, right? But what happens if the monster is faster? Right, so let's change that. Let's make the monster faster, right? Right now, we're going to do like what Nitwit pointed out. Nitwit pointed out that right now, the player is always faster until we manually change the speed. We're manually changing the speed, dude. We're fixing it. We're going to say the player's only got 5 now, dude. The player got status change. He's fucking slowed down. Right, he got afflicted with some slow. So now he's only got 5 speed, right? So now we're going to do this test, right? If player speed points are greater than monster speed points, well, no, it's a failure, right? This returns false now. This is not true anymore. So none of this code is run, right? We talked about this on our, first day programming, but let me reiterate. An if statement is followed by a conditional statement. If the condition is true, the ifs code will run. If it's false, that code will not run. Just as in theory, could you replace the if player health points equals 0, you lose, putting it before it prompts player to attack again, if the game is going to loop back to the prompt anyways? Let me see if I understand what Justin's saying here. Could you replace the if player points equals 0? I think we're talking about down here. Yeah, we could do that. Again, so the only reason yeah, definitely. What's up, Mutant Squirrel? We definitely could use elif. We're not going to talk about that right now, though. It's only our second day. I'm trying to keep things simple here, but you're totally right. We definitely could. It'd be actually more efficient to use elif. A lot of things would be more efficient to use if we knew what they were yet. How you doing, Mutant? Welcome aboard, dude. What's up, Ryan? Yeah. Yeah, the only reason... Yeah, Justin. Yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, Justin. We definitely could. The only reason I moved the, if player health points are, less than or equal to 0, statement to where I did was for efficiency. We could definitely ask if the player is alive before they get their turn, and it would behave exactly the same way. You're right. We could just stop the player from getting a turn if they're dead, and then break out of the loop. What's up, here goes? I just moved the, is the player dead block to directly after the player takes damage, so that if the player doesn't take damage for some reason, we don't bother wasting time asking if he's dead. But let's actually use your idea, Justin, just because I don't like how deeply we've been indenting. Let's, let's move the is the player dead conditional to just before the player gets a turn. Or even, what did Justin say? Should we do it before you get the turn, or even... I'm going to see here. It prompts player to attack again. Yeah, so we'll do that. So we can basically move this statement to 2 different places. Let's just move this for now. Let's grab this, cut it. So here's what we can do. We could move it to where Justin recommended, like right here. Right? This is where Justin recommended it, right before the prompt. And he's right. This will totally work just fine. Fixing our indenting. So what Justin said is that, we can move this right here. If the player's speed points are greater than the monster speed points, then ask, well, first of all, is he alive? Right? If he's dead, we don't even bother asking him, dude. He's done. It's game over. Don't even bother asking him. That's it. We can also move this statement, right here, before we even ask about the speed. Right? This is before we even ask about the speed. Because the speed doesn't even fucking matter. Right? Like, it doesn't matter who's faster. If I have no health left, I'm dead. That's it. Game over. Right? I mentioned earlier that the order of lines is very important. Yeah, I might touch on functions just to save some space here, but we only have like half an hour left. So I'm not sure we will. Let's not do that today. We'll do that next time. What's up, bubbies? RPG Maker. Because, programs flow from top to bottom. Even still, because logic is, very complex, lots of different variations could work exactly the same way. Sometimes you move lines around to make the code more efficient, such as not asking the computer questions when it's not important, even if the code would still work. Other times, you move lines around just to make things more sensible for yourself as a reader. Yeah, exactly, Ryan, yeah. And if need, make it a bit more ugly and faster. And make it clean to read, then make it, start off making it easy for you to read, and then you might find out as you go, I'm going to actually lower the volume here. Well, I guess I can't, huh? Yeah, first make it easy to read for yourself, and then as time goes on, you might find, oh, actually, it's kind of inefficient. This is actually kind of, this is kind of wasting computer cycles. I'll fix this, make it more efficient. No unit tests, Quentin. Okay, so we're going to, at the start of every turn, let's make it like this. Right? At the start of every turn, we're going to leave this code as it is right now. This is just fucking collab edit. It's got some really nasty way that handles white space. No big deal, though. So we're going to leave our code like this. At the start of every loop, no, let's just say, let's reword that, every time the while loop starts over, we're going to ask if the player is dead. If the player is dead, we just break out right away, and it's game over. Shut down I command. I'm not sure best matchup. I don't think I do. I don't know any batch programming in Windows. I know a bunch of Linux commands. I know there's a Linux shutdown, but I'm not sure what I does. Does I what immediately? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so basically, so we're starting this, every new turn, every new loop, I should say, gets started by asking, is the player still alive? If he's not, then we break out, it's game over. Right? Okay. So, sorry, I got sidetracked here. Okay. So, let's getting back to what we were talking about before, our code has a major problem right now. If the player's speed is higher, then we run a code block where they get a turn, and then the monster gets a turn. That's the whole code block. If that runs, if the player's speed is higher than the monster's, the player gets a turn, and then the monster gets a turn. Makes sense, right? But what if the monster is faster? We don't have any code blocks to deal with that. So let's add one. So here's our entire if statement. Here's the entire if block, right? We have this whole if block right here. And it just says, hey, listen, if the player's speed points are higher, then, ask them what they want to do, give them a turn, the monster gets his turn, that's it. Now we're going to make a another if statement. Well, let's go down here. Okay, so we're going to indent for the while loop. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're inside this while loop, right? We're going to say if monster speed points are greater than player speed points, then we're going to do all this same shit, but we're going to get the monster's turn first. Let's just do that then, right? Let's, where's the monster's turn? Right here. Right? So we're going to copy this code. Okay. It's already indented correctly. That's nice for us. And then the player gets his turn. So we're going to go up here. Where's the player's turn start at? Right here. They first get prompt for a command. And then we print off the monster's health. And there's the entire player's turn. Okay. Okay, there. So we just basically did the same exact code for this situation, but we reversed it. So in this, if the player's speed points are higher than the monster's, then the player gets his turn first, right here. And then following that, the monster gets his turn. Right? And then immediately following this whole block, right, we ask another question, right? We say, well, you know what? What if the monster speed points are higher than the player speed points? Then the monster gets his turn. Okay. This looks like just add another break there. I'm not sure. I'm gonna get rid of that. Not sure there's a bug or what. There you go. Is he trying to test something out? And then the player gets his turn. So just reverse the order there. Just look at the video now. Is there a link where we kids can follow along with that home? Not really. Not really. There is basically, but not really. But no, you can. I'll paste it over to you guys. Yeah, exactly. You guys can totally fuck with this. That's why it's not gonna be a long-term. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to troll, you can read along here or fuck with the code, but please don't. All right. So let's see here. Yeah, in the future, I hope to have another method for doing this where we don't have to rely on goodwill. We could just have a way that we can have like permissions so you can read along and not be able to edit. Basically, now everybody can read and also edit. So if you guys want to edit the code, you definitely could. Please don't. Trolling time. I'm going to fix all your bugs. Yeah, please don't fix the bugs. We know there's a lot of shortcomings in this code. It's still our very beginnerish code. But yeah, so basically, we have a working game now, basically, right? So we have a working game now, and the character with the higher speed gets the first turn. Every time the while loop cycles over itself, it asks if the player has higher speed. If they do, we run a bunch of code where the player gets a turn and the monster gets a turn. Then, just to cover our bases, we ask if the monster has higher speed than the player. If the monster has higher speed, we run some code where the monster gets a turn and the player gets a turn. Now let's talk about bugs. Let's talk about bugs. I'm not talking about Bugs Bunny, guys. We coded this speed test this way for simplicity's sake. But it's got some bugs. Some beginners might have noticed this already, and some might not have. Basically, we have a couple bugs here, actually. So here's the first bug, right? The first bug is that we have no code for handling a situation where the player and the monster have exactly the same speed. We have an if block for handling a situation where the player has more, and we have an if block for handling a situation where the monster has more. Right? But what if they have the same exact speed? What if we go up here and make it like, we both have 8 speed, right? Player has 8 speed, monster has 8 speed. What happens then? Nothing happens, right? Because it fails both these checks. If both the player and the monster have 8 speed, the conditionals for both of the if statements will fail. Right, so right here we say, is the player faster than the monster? If so, do all this. Right? Then we say, if the monster is faster than the player, do all this. But we have no code for handling if they have the same exact speed. That's our first bug. That's our first bug. Our second bug is that we always ask both questions. Does the player have more speed? Does the monster? And then, does the monster have more speed? That's not only inefficient to ask both questions, but also it's a problem if this monster speed were to change. If the monster speed were to somehow change in this code block, let's say that later on we get like a spell that, it's like a haste spell, right? If his monster speed changes here, then this question, they might both become true, right? Because it asks here first, and then later on it asks this, right? We want to ask only one. We want to ask only once, and then depending on the outcome, do 2 different things, right? So we're going to utilize an else statement instead of a redundant if statement like we have now. That will solve both of our problems. Let me show you how. So here we ask, is the player faster than the monster? Right? Then later on we ask the opposite question. Is the monster faster than the player? Well, we have a tool for that, right? We have a tool for asking an opposite question, and that would be the else statement. Let's replace this line, right, with else. I'm sorry, DQ. I'm sorry. I find that meme unironically funny, huh? So basically, I'm monkey. I don't think I've heard that meme before. Okay, so let's talk about this else statement, right? So we learned before that when an else statement follows an if statement, it has a code block that's only run if the if statement is false. Right? So we're going to say if player speed points are greater than monster speed, so if the player is faster than the monster, then do this. Give the player the turn first. Else, which means otherwise, right? Otherwise, the monster gets his turn first, right? Because we know that the player is not faster, so we're assuming the monster is faster. Because one has to be faster, right? You would think. So, first of all, the else statement prevents us from having to ask a redundant question. which uses up CPU power. In this case, very, very minimal, but bear with me. It's an example. Don't be doing redundant stuff. Right? It's a redundant question because if we already asked that question once, we already asked, is the player faster? Right? So we already know whether or not the monster is faster, right? We already asked if the player is faster, so we already know whether or not the monster is faster. So we use this else statement that says, if this is not true, then do all this stuff, right? It also solves our problem of how to deal with the player and the monster having the exact same speed. Because our first statement, if player speed points is greater than monster speed points, is definitely false if the monster speed points is greater than, let's just say, greater than player speed points. So, if the monster is faster, it's definitely false that the player is faster. However, there's another situation where it's false that the player is faster than the monster. If the monster and the player are exactly the same speed, it's false that the player is faster than the monster. So what I'm saying here is, guys, that this else statement will also run if the player and monster have the exact same speed. So this code here will only run if the player is faster, right? If the player is faster, this code will run. If player speed points greater than monster speed points, run this code. All this code is indented, all the indented code, right? It's indented by the certain amount of depth, right? To the same depth as this first line. All this code is indented like that. It's going to run if the player is faster. Else, if that's false, if the monster is faster, if they have the same speed, right? Then run this code. So as long as the monster is not, as long as the player is not faster than the monster, we run this code. Whether the monster is faster or the same speed, we run this code. So basically, if the monster and the player have the exact same speed, the monster gets his turn first. It behaves the same way as it would if the monster had higher speed. Our game is very unforgiving. It favors the monster. But at least that situation is handled now. If the monster and the player have the exact same speed, something will happen. We can also fix our code. We can fix our code so that, the player is favored, right? Let's change the code so that the player is favored if they have the exact same speed as the monster. That early Final Fantasy shit. Right? So here's our video. If monster points is greater than monster speed points, right? If the player is faster, how about we say this? One character is going to change all this. Boom. Right? So I changed the conditional statement determining turn order. Now it reads, if player speed points are greater than or equal to monster speed points. Do this, right? So if the player has more speed or the same speed as the monster, then he gets the first turn. Otherwise, the monster gets the first turn, right? So now the else statement will only trigger if the monster's speed is actually higher than the player's speed. That's the only situation where, logically, the player's speed would not be greater than or equal to the monster's speed. The monster would need to have more speed to trigger that else statement. Let's just say, to avoid that if statement and trigger that else statement. Right? Okay. So now we have a game where if the player is faster than the monster, he gets the first turn. If the monster is faster than the player, he gets the first turn. Right? So it's we have a new attribute. We implemented a new attribute today, which was speed. Pretty cool. It's time for us to play some Fortnite, guys. I've been having a lot of fun here programming with you guys today. I kind of want to keep going. We've been having a lot of I've been having fun. I don't know about you guys. I've been having fun. What I really want to do is talk about functions, like Quentin mentioned earlier, because as you can see, what's this? I really want to talk about function definitions, because as you can see, we repeat a lot of lines in our code. What's up, Austin? We're making an RPG today. Yes, we will teardrop. We definitely will do object-oriented programming in this game. But not today. We haven't got into that stuff yet. Yes, we definitely could, Justin. I actually wanted to implement that today. But, I think we made much better use of our time by talking about the importance of line order and how else statements work. So what I'm talking about when I say we have repeating lines, I mean this code here, line 22 through 38. This is the player's turn, right? That's the player's turn. That's the exact same fucking code as lines 61 through 77, right? That's the player's turn. It's just that we change the order they happen in, right? So we say, if the player's speed points are, if the player's faster, give him the first turn, then do the monster's turn. Otherwise, do the monster's turn, then do the player's turn, right? We reuse the same code, right? We're reusing a lot of code. What we could do is package that code into a function and then call that function every time we want to run that code. The next time we approach this project, we're going to create a function that gives the player a turn and a function that gives the monster a turn. And then, every time they need to have a turn, we can just give it to them with a single line of code instead of 20 lines. Cool, man. Thank you for the follow, a teardrop. Guys, we do programming here on Fridays on Vencabot, usually from around 6 to around 8 or 9-ish Eastern time. But we're more of a gameplay channel. We play a lot of games here. We play a lot of street fighting games and Souls games and retro games, platformers, things like that. If you guys want to see more of this series where we program this RPG together, let me know on Discord. Otherwise, I can't do it, right? I can't do this if nobody shows up. If you guys want to see this again, go to vencabot.com, join the server. Let me know you want to see more of this series on Fridays, and we'll come back next Friday and do some more. Otherwise, I might do some more programming for our Battleship clone, which is much more advanced. But I really would like to do a tutorial series where we kind of go through and talk about basic stuff for newbies. But I need participation for that. So definitely let me know if you guys want to see more of this. Guys, as usual, if you enjoy hanging out, want to keep the channel online, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/Vencabot. Even a buck is a huge help. It goes a long way to make the channel more sustainable in the long term. Put a taco in my belly. The Patreon support is super vital. Thank you as well to the Twitch subscribers. Twitch subs are also great. If you're like me, you enjoy the channel, but you're not exactly rolling in dough, right? Maybe you're broke, maybe you're a student, or you're unemployed, or you're working full-time, but you have a house to pay off and a family to feed. Help for free in that case. Get in the chat and come say hi. The chat makes it a lot more fun for me, especially. More fun for everybody, I think, if you guys get in the chat. You can also follow on Twitch for free. Tell your friends we're here, and save clips of funny stuff, scary stuff, salty stuff, mostly gameplay type stuff, right? We're more of a gameplay channel. But the clips are really cool, guys. The clips go on the break screen. When I go on break, I put some clips up to make it more entertaining while I'm gone. Also, they're good for sharing on Facebook and Twitter, and things like that. Really good for promoting the channel. We're also on YouTube, guys, at youtube.com/Vencabot Archive. The first episode of Intro to Python is on YouTube right now. That's at youtube.com/Vencabot Archive, or just search for the Vencabot on there. You'll find me. I'm the only Vencabot on YouTube. We also have lots of gameplay on there, like Dark Souls games, retro games, modern games, AAA games, indie games, online stuff like Fortnite Battle Royale, and more. I'm very proud of that. I've got about 1,000 videos on YouTube. It's a lot of work, but I'm very proud of that. Go check it out right now, guys. What's up, Insidious? He says, when do you do your Battleship coding, or is it Friday between 6 and 9? Exactly. It's the only time we do for programming, Insidious. We're a gameplay channel here. I love to code, though, and I kind of made some time to code. There was some resistance to it, but I made some time to code on Fridays. So I basically stopped doing Battleship while I do this. And I think this is more entertaining, more interesting, this tutorial type stuff. But if nobody wants to do tutorial type stuff, then I'll go back to Battleship. It's all well and good. On Battleship, it's an online net play type thing. And I've been working on the netcode for it recently. We had it fully working, but I wanted to improve upon it, so I totally rewriting the netcode right now. And we got kind of sidetracked in doing this RPG stuff with much more basic ideas. But I think it's a really cool idea to get newbies involved in programming. Do a very short break here, guys, and come right back with some Fortnite Battle Royale. Sorry about the wait, guys. I will see you guys very shortly. Nice to meet you, Insidious. Yeah, we're a 40-hour-a-week gameplay stream here, except for on Fridays from around 6 to around 9. We do programming. This is our second ever tutorial-type episode for programming, where we go over very basic beginner concepts, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys are too. Thank you for the follow, Insidious. I'm sorry, Insidious. Yeah, it's that time, dude. We're moving on to some Fortnite Battle Royale now. Is Fortnite Austin? You want to play, dude? You're totally welcome. Change at day-night cycle, and you can change it at will. Thanks, dude. Have a good night, Insidious. Bostrom, really? I didn't even know it was a day-night cycle. Outside of Lath, Lord Johnny, breathing the fresh air, dude. Oh, fuck! It's already night, isn't it? Yeah, there's the moon, so usually that's a pretty good indicator. Make sure that I have all this code saved. You're right, it was daytime earlier. I assumed it was based on where I was at, though. Since you interact with the Lawrence's skull, it becomes night. I'm playing on PC, Austin. But it's cross-plat with PS4. Yeah, he's trying to understand. I don't understand how it can be cross-plat with Xbox and PS4. But PS4 and Xbox are not cross-plat with each other. So I guess if you had a team, right, your team could have PC guys and PS4 guys,
that's a bizarre
or it could have
costume.
PC guys and Xbox guys. But you couldn't have
scuba suit that Apple's like
you
so
couldn't
much.
have
Let's all try and get a
PC,
look at his
Xbox,
card
and PS4 guys
for
on one
Apple's
team.
sake.
So I guess whoever joins first decides which console can be on the team. So if I had a friend who was on PS4 and I had a friend who was on Xbox, whoever joined first would then prevent the other guy from joining the
We
team.
make out the outline of
weird.
his genitalia.
But we're usually more like a PS4 and PC kind of a stream.